Yo, sudden. What's sudden? Yo. Sudden. Oh. Hey. Oh, yo. Sudden. Guys. Beautiful freaking day today. SPY green, AMC green, GameStop green, BBBY green. Lots of green across the market. And it feels pretty dang good, I gotta say. We've gone through the ringer here for a while during this bear market. And now we are getting a little bit of peace and a little bit of rest. And I'd like to discuss today the levels for AMC for the potential breakout scenarios. And I made a video talking about this a couple days ago, right? One of the scenarios which we got was the potential for it to reject off of the line that I'd mentioned and come back down to $12, which it did do. I'm going to show you this really quick. Tapped right here, rejected, came back down to about 12.25 or so, and came back up to retest this trend line. And this trend line's huge. This is a really big trend line, right? The break of this trend leaves a lot of open sky, so to speak, for upside. And this does appear to be a pretty clean breakout. You did get some sell-off into the close today. Closed at about $14.48. And the after hours currently, you're seeing at about $14.08. And what I'm really watching for more than anything is a continuation of trend. And I'd like to just take a few minutes today to discuss what I think it would look like for the bull case scenario and the bear case scenario. I'm not going to clickbait you. There is the potential this is a fake out breakout, but it seems unlikely. High volume day. You have a breakout on the RSI. You've got a breakout from the trend line. Very strong move by the bulls to gain some control in the situation here. And that control leaves, like I mentioned before, the open sky for potentially the next holy grail trend line, the holy grail resistance that I'd be watching for. So let's talk about it. Let's go over the different things. Guys, welcome to Trey Straight Through. We can talk fast. Let's go class. I'm not a financial advisor or expert. So please consider the grain of salt. Let's get into it. Let's go first with bear case scenario, worst case scenario for this overall situation and where we're sitting with the stock, right? What you've witnessed is sort of a very micro or maybe even medium term trend for bulls start to begin starting on 11 May of 2022. You saw a local bottom of about $9.97. From here, it has begun to form a pattern, a rising support, in which case you have seen a triangle start to form that lines up with this resistance. And this resistance, in case you're curious, you'd like to connect these dots yourself, just take all of these touch points from 13 September, 20 October, 8 December, 20 December, 30 December, 23 March, and 31 May. And all of these different taps, including the most recent one, 27 June, and then obviously here today, has formed a falling resistance line. A break above this would be very similar to what we witnessed during this breakout, right? You got a tap right here, tap right here, tap right here. Coming off of the break of that, you got a surge in volume, big surge in volume, followed by a lot of green candles. Rejection, comes down, rejects, taps the bottom of the support, comes back up, tests, and now here we are, right? You're sitting at about $14.48. So what you're watching for, what I think is really important and critical, is a hold and continuation of this overall trend, right? Two scenarios. Bear scenario is that this is a fake out breakout, right? Let's just pretend that it is for right now. If this is a fake out breakout, what you're going to watch happen, most likely, is it come back down to this right here. I think you're going to watch it come back down and retest about 1220 to 1230 and be expecting a bounce. Most times that it's tapped this, as long as the trend continues the way that it has bounced back up as such, right? Tap, bounce, tap, bounce, tap, bounce, tap, bounce, tap, bounce, and it's continued on and on and on and on and on. Well, I think in the bear case scenario, if this is a fake out, you're going to watch that happen again. It would tap this, come back up to retest this overall trend, and either break out or come back down and continue to wind up until it either breaks down or it breaks up. I think it'll break down if the SPY is weak overall. I think it'll break up if the SPY continues to have strength. Thankfully, the SPY is going through some form of a little bit of a rally right now. It's at about $388.99, about a 1.5% increase today. And I'm personally watching for the gap fill up to about 401.30 or so. And I think there's a good possibility and potential for that to happen, right? So if that continues on, I think the SPY strength is going to carry some wind in the sails for AMC. That brings me to the bull case scenario, right? Bull case scenario is that this is a true breakout. And if it is a true breakout, what you're going to be watching for are a couple key momentum levels along the way to what I would consider to be the holy grail resistance. The best way that I can put it is this resistance line is probably the equivalent of $14.50 back here, right? When we broke $14.50, everything went absolutely nuts. $14.50 was the mark to break in order to get a huge push. This breakout, I think, would be the exact same thing. That's my speculation. That's my bet. I think it's just as critical of a resistance line. I think if we broke it, we'd get a huge push. But to get there, you got to break these first. And that is this blue line and this blue line, 1475 and 1662. These are considered, to me, to be momentum levels. You can see actually today that we already tested out this momentum level earlier, 1475, and it rejected and came back down to where we are right now, which is this acting as support instead of resistance, this falling trend line from tap, tap, tip, tap, tip, tap, bing, bong, you get back down to here. And now you get this 1 hour candle that's starting to test that for hopefully what we'd hope for, right, is a push back up to retest this blue trend. You break the blue trend, you come back up to this one, 1662. That would be the next big spot that I'd be watching for. I think a lot of momentum would come alongside that and push. Rejection here, I think, obviously, you come back down to this trend line. Rejects off that, you come back down to what I mentioned before, which is here, right? Now, if it does break this and it pushes to the upside, you're watching for 1662. A 1662 rejection, come back down to 1475. Breakthrough, push up. There's a lot of open sky from there. This is where I'd be watching for very carefully if this is the case, if this is a true breakout. There's not much else to say. There is the risk of, even if it does come all the way up to this trend line, there's the risk that it taps it and it rejects and it repeats this exact movement where it went to $34 and all the way back down to $9. That could happen, right? It's a possibility that we have to keep in the back of our minds as a worst case scenario. It could test this and break through, right? I'm in the game of this or that. If it breaks this line, then I watch this one. If it rejects off this line, then I watch this one. And you go back and forth until it decides where it would like to go. And right now, with SPY strength, a little bit of a rally happening. We're not at a crazy rally, don't get me wrong. This is definitely still a massive macro bear trend. But while we're here, you know, getting a little bit of strength in the SPY, you're setting yourself up for a solid opportunity, right? Last thing that I'll say is two different things. SPY continues to show strength. I think you go up. But if it starts to show weakness, I think AMC is going to go down. I just do. That's my opinion. Number two, TMI tweeted this out, and I found this to be interesting. He said there's $1 billion of out-the-money options right now that could expire worthless, worst case scenario, which is 20% of AMC's debt. Now, obviously, it's silly to say that money could be used to pay off AMC debt because it doesn't work that way, right? But it is a lot of money. So when you're playing options on these sort of things, be careful. Options can expire worthless. Don't diamond hand options. Options aren't shares, right? Options are all about timing. They're all about risk management and being careful with your money, right? Because you can lose it all if you're not careful. So be careful, protect yourselves, right? Don't let it become a trap. Don't let it become an options trap. It'll only become a trap if you make it one, right? And I suppose that's what I've got. I'm going to keep it short. That's all I got. Catch you in the next one. Appreciate you guys. As always, much love, like taps, and peace.